Okay. Well, welcome everybody, both those who are online and those who are watching this in a recording. I'm Ken Klein. I am right now a professor at California Western School of Law. About 21 years ago, I'm in San Diego right now, when I was a lawyer with a national law firm and thought I knew stuff, my home burned to the ground. And I quickly found out that I knew absolutely nothing, and I could not find any playbook at all to um, to tell me how to do this. Um, and so I kind of became an involuntary expert on all kinds of things. In the very next couple of years, I met Amy Bach and her organization, United Policyholders. United Policyholders, the problem is that there are lots of people who are willing to offer you help for money. They all have their hand out. United Policyholders does not. It is a nonprofit, and Amy's mission in life, her obsession, her expertise is to be the resource to help you get through this journey. I've found her organization and her personally to be so compelling and so good at that for the last 21 years, I have been a volunteer at disaster relief centers having these conversations under the banner of United Policyholders. They are amazing, and it's all out of the intelligence, heart, and passion of Amy Bach. Um, in 2017, Annie Barbour had her home burned down in the Santa Rosa fires, and she found herself involved in the same mission. She is now employed as the program liaison for United Policyholders, and I met Annie when the two of us found ourselves sitting side by side as volunteers at the Disaster Relief Center at Pasadena City College in its first 3 days of operation. In fact, she's on camera right now from Pasadena, where she is back doing that same work. And so, what we wanted to do through this hour and a half is to try to provide to you the same sort of introduction to how to navigate this journey that you find yourself on that you would get if you came to the desks. Um, United Policyholders does not give legal advice. And so, even though both Amy and I are lawyers, we will not give you legal advice this evening. And we will ask you, if you don't mind, to use the question and answer function on your Zoom to post questions that you might have, but also to just give us basic information as to how you come to this meeting. In other words, are you finding yourself on this journey right now versus you're a friend to someone who is versus a professional who has curiosity about this? Because if time doesn't permit us to reach all questions, we certainly want to give priority to people who are actually on this journey. The plan for tonight is I will start with some comments that are just sort of the basics of getting started. And then I will hand it over to Annie, who will correct all the mistakes I made and add all the things I missed. And then she will give you information that I have heard her give several times in the last couple of weeks, which is the specifics in particular if your home is not destroyed, but if it is profoundly smoke damaged. And then we will get out of the way and let Amy Bach do her thing as she tells you about all the programmatic resources that she can make available to you and gives you some of the true meat on the bone to get you started on navigating the journey you are on. So hopefully that tells you where we're headed. and let's get started. So, the first thing I want to tell you is that everything United Policyholders does is informed by people who have had this happen to them. And so I am sure that you are well and truly tired of people telling you they cannot imagine what you're going through. These are resources completely structured and informed and written for and by people who know exactly what you're going through. This journey, if your home has been destroyed, is going to be long and sometimes hard and often complicated, but you will get through it. You will get home. And it is important to remember that right now, in a world where everyone in your world is now giving you a new identity, which is as a fire survivor or a fire victim, that the fire is not who you are. The fire is something that's happened to you. It is only who you are if you choose that to be your identity. One of the hardest things that people go through at this point is to accept help. We all identify ourselves as people who give help to people who need help. We aren't people who need help or accept help. Right now, you do need help, and it's not a sign of weakness that you do. But if that cannot sit comfortably for you, if you feel embarrassed by it, then what I would suggest to you is, at least in my faith tradition, we have a Hebrew word, mitzvah. And mitzvah is often translated as giving charity. That is a very incomplete translation. The correct translation is that it is a kindness and ethical obligation to others to give them help when they need it. But it is equally a kindness and ethical obligation to others to allow them to help you because they need to help you. Right now, if you have no stable place that you are living, ask people to give you gift cards because you don't have the ability to store anything they give you. And then you will have a place, and then you can spend those gift cards getting what you need. If you're in some place stable, if they offer to help, always say yes. If you can't think of anything else, say bring me food and bring it in containers I get to keep, because right now I got too many things to do, and I don't to get food in my mouth, and I don't have any containers to hold food anyway. And don't write thank you notes. No one's expecting them. If you hear nothing else I tell you tonight, I want you to hear the website uphelp.org. That's uphelp.org, uphelp.org. It is an aggregator of all of the resources you need, and it is in words you can understand. It's also got an email link for you to post questions. As you go through this journey, you'll probably make 100 mistakes. And if you only make 100 mistakes, you are doing better than most people. So, whatever level of kindness and tolerance for error that you would extend to a friend of yours going through this, make that the bare minimum that you extend to yourself. Make to do lists, running to do lists that you're always adding to. And each night ask yourself, what is the absolute must do tomorrow? And then forgive yourself when you don't clear it. When my wife and I lost our home, I think we were about 2 months in before we actually, in a single day, cleared that day's must to do list. You're going to be dealing with an insurance company and an adjuster, and that adjuster is likely to change over the run of this path you're on. And they aren't going to keep records of what they told you, at least not consistent ones. Every time they tell you something that you like, send an email confirming it so that you have a record. Every time they tell you something you don't like, ask, where in the policy does it say that? Because they will make mistakes. It's okay to take a day off. It's absolutely okay for this not to be a 7-day a week, 24/7 job. But when you're dealing with your insurance company, do keep in mind that for them, this is a business transaction, and your emotion can be their profit. It's not a race or a competition. It doesn't matter how your neighbor is doing or how fast they're moving. Also, I have two more things to tell you before I hand it over to Annie. The first is don't jump into hiring an attorney or a public adjuster because they are going to take a cut of whatever they recover. Instead, try to get as much money as you can from your insurance company without ever closing the claim or saying it's done or I agree that's all I'm entitled to. Then, when you think you're tapped out as to what you can get, then if an attorney or public adjuster wants to take a cut to get you more, let them try. And finally, I want to talk briefly about debris and breathing debris. There's a real temptation right now to sift through your debris and see what you can find. And you might find stuff, but you have to weigh sifting through the debris and the benefit of finding something versus the health consequences of breathing in the debris of the thing that you hope to find, but now is just a bunch of ash that, if it goes into your system, is not good for you. There are other people who can do that work for you and do it safely. And it is with that thought in mind that I hand things over to my good friend Annie Barbour.
Thank you, Ken. Good job. I'm not correcting anything. I'd like to start by giving you my sincerest sympathy for what you guys are going through, because this is trauma 101, and recognizing that is a battle in itself. Please reach out for any help that you may need. There's a lot of resources that are being put together for you guys. And it's just important that you have the information for if or when you need it. I am not, as Ken has so kindly made me out to be, like a smoke expert. I'm not. What I tell people is what I've learned in the Marshall Fire in Colorado, because they were the first real struggle with smoke damage, to the degree that they were. I mean, we've seen smoke damage before. We've dealt with people. The first and foremost, I'd like to share with you that there is not a state in the United States that has a set of standards. And that makes dealing with your insurance a little more problematic. Proving that you have smoke damage, all of those become much more challenging. But I would say that from what we have learned is that these houses can be harboring toxins. And so when you go back home and you see ash on your windowsills, you see ash on your countertops, you need to make a very, it's kind of a financial decision, basically, that you're going to want to make sure that you're safe. And that probably means staying out of the house until you get some testing. You would need an industrial hygienist to come in and do that test. Insurance companies are not real friendly with guaranteeing that they will pay that. And then it goes to remediation. And remediation is not a Mary Maid's cleaning. It is definitely a very intense cleaning that can run anywhere from $40,000 to $80,000. And insurance loves to do things in groups because they don't want to say, oh yeah, your house has a lot of ash in it, soot and ash and smoke. And so we're just going to take out the insulation and encapsulate the attic and do all the intense cleaning and get rid of your soft goods. They will generally want to take the first bite of the intense cleaning and figuring out what is salvageable and what is not on your personal items. And your couches, your pillows, your mattress, all of those things can absorb quite a bit of these toxins. So that's kind of where you start normally. I would push you to ask if you're getting a hygienist, to have them check your insulation when they're there. Have them check your attic and hope that that's not a two-stage thing. But if it's necessary, it's just one thing that needs to be done, and then you can get all that cleaning done at the same time. Again, I have to impress upon you, it's not, we don't have standards. So everything I've read is if you're reacting, you have a problem. Um, your eyes will burn, your lungs, your chest will tighten up. So you really need to pay attention. And I think that the biggest things that I've seen are the elderly and the youth, the babies. So bear them in mind when you're making your decisions. It will be a struggle with your insurance company in all likelihood, to get to where you want to be, to where you're comfortable. I watched a webinar last night on all of this from your city, your county, and they don't have a set of standards either. It's difficult to get good guidelines, and UP's done quite a bit of work trying to get the answers after the Marshall Fire. We have a couple of really good webinars that you can access through YouTube. And if you just punch in United Policyholders Smoke, both of those will come up. And I think those are a good place to start for your education. So at least when you get someone out there, you know what they're talking about. I do want to impress upon you that having an adjuster come out and take his finger and slide it along the wall and say, no, you're good. They are not certified to make that call. So, due diligence, lots of advocating for yourself in this. Make sure you stay safe. I would say don't overreact. Some people really will have the kind of houses that you can go in and wet mop and dispose of stuff, but we don't have those standards, so we don't know which ones are which. And I will now pass it along to Amy.
And before you do, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions, Annie, that I got by email before we started. If you are comfortable on the world of renters insurance.
Yes. And if
Okay.
not, Amy will jump in.
Okay. So the the first one is for renters that allowed their renters insurance to lapse and lost everything to the fires, what steps should they take to get relief? I don't have high hopes for that answer, but what do you got?
That's a really tough one. You are kind of at the mercy of your landlord to do the proper cleaning. And then how do you facilitate replacing what needs to be thrown out? How do you determine? That's going to be the tricky part. I highly recommend that people in this situation sign up for FEMA and get some resources that way. And basically, either their landlord is going to clean the place sufficiently. That set of challenges is how long will it take? How long will that renter be out of their home? How can they afford to be out? I think that what I've told a few people that have come in is where would you stay? How much money do you have? Can you get into another place? All of these are going to be key to them removing themselves from the situation. I don't know how long cleaning is taking. And I know that we've always heard about landlords who just don't want to put that kind of money out. Some are great at it, but some may not want to. So those are kind of the key points that any renter is going to be having to look at to determine whether they stay or they go.
Okay, and then my second, I think you answered the second written question, but your answer led me to another question. We were having a discussion offline before this started about why folks, even who have insurance, might want to register with FEMA. And could you give us the reasons why that they would want to do that?
Absolutely. We deal with insurance, but we also recognize that the there's a whole person in front of us, and we don't want them to make a mistake. So we really are pretty solid on trying to work out all the bugs for them. And one of the things that we advise is to please sign up for FEMA, sign up for SBA loan. You don't have to take the loan, but have it available for yourself so that if you need that bridge, it's available. Um, FEMA, you will get denied if you have insurance. You want to keep appealing. If you were to run out of your loss of use, they can help you with rent, temporary rent. There are different programs that open up just by having that FEMA number. So please stay in the cycle. Once you get out of it, you cannot sign up for FEMA or SBA after the fact.
Let me add one other thing, and then we really will turn the mic over to Amy, which is um, there will be many businesses, anything ranging from grocery stores and clothing stores to Home Depot selling lumber, that may offer discounts to people who have lost everything in the fire. But they are very concerned that anyone can come in and claim that status. And so they ask for proof of that status. And the gold standard of that proof is having a FEMA number that is imaged from FEMA on your phone so you can show it. So that is the other benefit of registering with FEMA. And with that, Amy, do your magic.
Well, well, thank you, Ken. You've certainly given me a kind introduction, and I very much appreciate being here with you and Annie in a kind of a relaxed way. And knowing that between the two of you, you have an incredibly deep understanding of not just what you went through yourselves, but what the hundreds, um, really probably thousands at this point, of people that you have come into contact with over the years as a United Policyholders volunteer or a United Policyholders staff member who are suddenly now finding themselves, in that exclusive club that no one wants really to be a member of people who have lost everything in a wildfire or had their home damaged in a wildfire. So, it's an honor to be here with two of my compadres that have the same kind of commitment that I have to giving people in your situation or the situation of people that you are helping um, honest guidance that is not not or not no strings attached, right? We all have that same motivation to not profit from your loss, but to actually help you recover from your loss. And there's nothing wrong with people making their living. In fact, I'm grateful that there are lawyers and public adjusters who know how to speak insurance and they know how to read a contract and they can go to the mat with an insurance company and they know how to pull the levers, to open the cash register. But really, what United Policyholders is about is our slogan, our tagline, empowering the insured. So, our feeling is when you buy insurance, you paid for two things. You paid for coverage to put you back where you were before a loss, and you paid for good claim service. And you shouldn't have to pay twice for the good claim service you already paid for. That's the ideal. The reality is there's a reason why United Policyholders exists, and that reason is the dynamic between for-profit insurance companies and their customers creates a, a chronic conflict. It's a tension, right? It's your property, it's your financial health that has to get restored. And for an insurance company, it's a business transaction. So Ken gave you some really good advice when he said, your emotion can, if you come to this thing and you're thinking, well, I saw those ads, I thought Good Hands, Good Neighbor, this adjuster is friendly, they're my friend, they're here to help me. We're here to kind of give you that reality check that that's just not how it is. And for you, you have the biggest financial interest in coming out of this thing with every dime of insurance that's available to you, because as wonderful as aid programs are, as important as FEMA is, as important as their housing assistance and their individual assistance grants, and all the work that they do, um, giving areas money to build back roads and build back bridges and restore power systems and water systems and all those things. At the end of the day, it's your insurance that hopefully you have, that's going to generate the dollars that you need to be able to replace what you lost, right? So, you look at a FEMA, even if you income qualify for a FEMA individual assistance, the max grant is like 42,000. So that's not going to put a house back, right? Again, incredibly important, and all the charitable aid, incredibly important, but it's really an insurance policy that delivers the dollars that you need. So our focus, of our organization, is not just to empower you so you can be your best advocate and fight for what you're entitled to if you have to fight for it, but at least know what you're entitled to, so that even if you don't have to fight for it, you get what you're entitled to. So a lot of our stuff is fairly technical. A lot of the information we bring comes from people like Ken, people like Annie, been there, done that, walked the walk, and also not just on their own, not just with their own claims and what happened to them, but their community, their neighbors that they worked with. So, Ken lives in an area where there were the opportunity for people to do a group rebuild. So instead of people going on their own, same with Annie, the opportunity to work with a production builder that would give you a certain number of plans, and you could pick from one of those plans, and you could make some adjustments to make it yours. But basically, you're in it with a lot of other people, which means that you're not the only one looking over the shoulder of that builder and the subs and making sure they're doing a good job. Your neighbors are too. And that's just one road. So, one thing that we tell people all the time, there's no cookie cutter approach here. There's no one path to disaster recovery that's great for everybody. I think the only path that's good for everybody is the path that works for that person, that household, right? So, one of the most important messages that we give people in these early weeks, where the trauma is the most acute. I mean, it's the pain is, it's a very much like losing a loved one. It's not anything that most people can understand if they haven't been through it. It's very, very profound, very disorienting. But what we have seen is that you will get through it. And that's why, Annie, I love to, have Annie on our orientations when we go into a disaster area, because there she is, living proof. And I've had Ken do the same thing. They got through it. So just that alone should give you some comfort. I know that, you know, no one was, most people don't really want, sugarcoating here. You know how complicated the situation is. But what I can assure you, and I look a lot, we're still working on Maui. They had that a tragic wildfire there in August of, I guess it was 2023. And and Annie's been over there. She was an angel there, just as she's been an angel here in LA. Um, and several of our other folks, just like Ken and Annie, that been there, done that, pay forward help they got through us by helping others. Um, and everybody's been looking at this banyan tree in Lahaina, the main area that got, so many people love Lahaina. It's beautiful and very much like the areas in LA that have been destroyed. It's incredibly beautiful, with incredible foliage and natural beauty. And people are watching this banyan tree sprouting leaves and coming back to life after this fire. And it's been a real inspirational symbol for a lot of people of resiliency. So we're here to bring you some pragmatism and some hope and some security, which of course is pretty hard right now. We talk a lot about the sleep, how people are, you're sleep deprived, you've got brain fog, and I've learned a lot over the years from people like Annie and Ken about what the experience is like. I come to it as an insurance consumer advocate, who saw how this power dynamic plays out, where the insurer has the money, you need the money, and how do you get the money? And I came to it from this very deep conviction that I have that there needs people who are in your situation who need to extract that money from a big corporation need help. Hey, there's going to be some people that say, oh, my insurance company did great. It was really not that bad. But for the most part, there are challenges, and we're here to help give you some strategies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen for a minute, and you're going to see some junk here. This is from the orientation deck that we did a few nights ago. Um, I'm going to just show you a few highlights. I'm sorry, from that deck. So one, I want you all to know about the library that we have put together for your fire. So this is a link to it. This is where we have taken our best shot at summarizing highlights of our guidance, which can go pretty deep, but we've tried to kind of keep it very simple for you from the get-go, so you don't feel overwhelmed. We try to break it down because we know that um, overwhelmed is that's the word that I would say most people will use in this situation, right? There's just so much coming at you, and oh, we can help with this, or this, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. There's like a million opinions out there people are throwing at you. Some of it is fine, and some of it is wrong. And we really pride ourselves on not giving you a bum steer, because again, we have nothing to sell you. We're not, it's to us, like, if you take this road, you take that road, fine, as long as um, you thought it through and made the decision. So at this, I really encourage all of you to sign up to get to be on our mailing list. That way you will know when we're offering a free class like this one tonight, which is a special event. But our classes follow the timeline of the typical decisions you're going to have to make and challenges you're going to be navigating as you go along the path to recovery. So there's the library, and you can see on the right the links to upcoming events. So a week ago, tomorrow, last Wednesday, we did our orientation, a lot like what we're doing tonight, just kind of helping you get in the right frame of mind, being realistic about, thinking about your insurance claim as a business negotiation, and reminding you that your insurance company, um, you already paid them to treat you right, and there's a lot of laws that require them to treat you right. They don't always treat you right for lots of different reasons. When something like this happens, they're scrambling to bulk up their staff, so they bring in people from out of state, and sometimes the people that they bring in don't know the rules here in California. We take care of consumers here in California. Some of them don't know about those 2 buckets of cash advances that you all should have already gotten or should be in the process of getting from your insurance companies, because other states don't have those rules. I'm going to talk more about those in a minute. But last week we did the orientation. Tomorrow, we will be doing how to read and understand your policy. That's going to be a deeper dive into reading your policy. Now, you might have gone to one of the Department of Insurance workshops last weekend or the weekend before, and maybe you had somebody look at your policy. Maybe you have already met with a lawyer and they looked at your policy with you, or maybe you met with a public adjuster and they looked at your policy. We're going to go over the basics of how do you read that gobbledygook legalese and how do you figure out what's coming to you, what's available to you. So that's tomorrow night. Not too late to sign up. You just go to our website and you register. You'll also find on our website the step-by-step guidance, which I'm going to show you a little bit about how that goes. Our Find Help directory, that's where you can find the lawyers and public adjusters and remediation experts. Those are people that will clean up, smoke damage that support our organization. It's not a huge directory, good or bad. We're actually pretty careful. We try to be careful about who we have in the directory, because obviously the last thing we want to do is be responsible for connecting you with somebody who's going to make, your situation worse. We want those people to be people who are going to make your situation better. We don't promote them. We're not a front for them. But we know that part of your journey is finding reputable, trustworthy professionals. So that is one place you can go. We also offer a lot of sample letters and examples of claim documents. We have wonderful resources. If your insurance company will not let you out of the contents inventory itemization requirement, and you have to do an inventory, which most insurers are going to make you do. Sometimes, if you're very underinsured, they will not. Or if they feel the pressure from the commissioner or from us or from you, they may waive it. But generally, you're going to have to do that inventory to get the full amount of your benefits. We have spreadsheets that people have labored over and donated to us, so you don't have to do all that work. You can just use those spreadsheets to kind of tick off the things you had or didn't have. We also have tips from people like Annie and Ken in their own words. What I learned about an industrial hygienist, or what we did when we ran out of ALE money, temporary rent money and that kind of thing. Okay. So you'll find all that on that library. This is the book we give away. That's a wonderful guide. And if you want, I shouldn't have jumped through that. If you want a copy, this has been around for decades. It's been a recovery aid to many wildfire survivors over the years. You can email us. Make sure you give us your mailing address, info@uphelp.org. So I don't know, Ken, I don't need to go too much longer and deep. I just want to remind people that really a fair and a full recovery on your insurance does require accurate valuations of your losses and an understanding of what your insurer owes you. And so having that proactive mindset is really important, of saying, okay, trust but verify is one way people talk about it. So if your adjuster says, here, I've done this computer estimate of what it's going to cost to replace your house. Okay, thank you. Take that and get a second opinion from a real builder, because computers don't rebuild homes, builders do. And so that's why we've created all these resources for you, so you can stand up for yourself. So of course you want to start from having a complete and current copy of your policy. And then, Annie touched on the smoke issues, and mentioned how much time we put into giving people guidance. And a lot of that is because, as you heard Annie say, there aren't clear standards for what constitutes safe indoor air quality, right? And insurers will often, trying to be efficient, they will try to have a protocol, so that they will say to their adjusters, okay, you have a smoker that some people call a claim involving smoke damage. This is all we pay for. Well, there's no cookie cutter approach here. It depends. Were your windows open during the fire? How close was your home to flames? How do you have double pane windows, single pane? Um, all those things, was the door left open when you evacuate? All those different things. So there's no cookie cutter approach here. It's what kind of cleaning is going to restore that home as close as possible to its pre-loss condition and be safe for you and your family to live in. That's really the key. And a lot of that is going to be dependent on the experts that assess the situation. And as Annie said, this is often kind of a dollar decision for people. You can sit there and fight with your insurance company for months about whether or not it's safe to move back into your house, and you can run through your temporary rent coverage, and you can have a dispute with them over whether or not it's safe to move back in. But at the end of the day, it's might be just worth it. It often is worth it to hire your own industrial hygienist or indoor air quality consultant to tell you what they think needs to be done about your home. And then you can try to get the insurer to reimburse you, but that's something that I've kind of come to over the years is like, insurers are going to dig in their heels because there's money at stake here. And it really often is on you to make sure that your family and you are not put in a situation where your health could be compromised and the value of your property could be unfairly reduced. So I'm not going to go through my whole deck, Ken. I just wanted to just kind of reiterate a few things that you talked about, and then just remind everybody it is so important to keep a diary, to keep a clean journal, to maybe somebody kind of gave me some brief the other day. Oh, well, the younger generation, they don't use notebooks and 3-ring binders, and I don't judge. If you like to use your phone to keep these notes, and you want to use your notes section on an iPhone, fine, dictate it. But however you do it, you want to keep that paper trail for lots of reasons. It's going to help you stay on track and keep forward momentum. It's going to help you keep your wits about you in terms of what did that guy say and where are we when you have that brain fog. And it's also going to be a record of how the insurance company treated you. Did you send them a request and then weeks went by? That should be documented. Did they ask you for something? Did they ask you to meet them at the property and you did? Write that down. Document that you've been cooperating. And if they're not cooperating, document that too. So the only other thing I want to share, I'm going to get out of this for a minute here now, and I want to take you briefly to our website, just briefly, so you can see what I'm talking about. So uphelp.org, right? There you are, uphelp.org. Here's the nav bar. Here's recovery help. You go down to disaster recovery help. You click on that, and then you go to your library. And here you're going to see how we broke all this down for you here. The way we created this list, and these are links to publications. So here's the high level, taking it in and getting started, and then you can go deeper if you want, deeper, right? Here's let's go back. I'm sorry, I'm not the best here at this. We're not going to do more of that. Arranging temporary housing, details on that. Getting organized, details on that. Debris removal. A lot of you are going through this debate right now. Am I going to go group? Am I going to go county debris removal? Or am I going to go it on my own? All these things we have information on, all the way down to choosing a contractor and all those things, and all the way through. Taking care of yourself along the way is going to be incredibly important. And you have the gal with you tonight who's been an incredible key to helping people take care of themselves along the way. And that's Annie Barbour. who supports our Survivor to Survivor webinars on a regular basis. So if you look on our website, you look at events, you're going to see a lot of Survivor to Survivors. And most of those have been hosted and curated by Annie. Some of them Ken's been on. Some of them we have survivor volunteers from Colorado, from Oregon, from California, because each disaster is a little different, but there are some common threads. And one of them is that you really shouldn't go it alone. You really there's no reason to. You're not alone here. There's just so many people that like like our organization that are rooting for you, that are here for you, that want to help you. And like Ken said, um, if you're a person that has trouble accepting help, this is the time to kind of, flip that script and take advantage of what's out there, because there's a lot.
Thank you so much, Amy. Before we see if we have things in the queue, I wanted to touch upon a few things that Annie and I know have encountered repetitively at the LA Disaster Relief Center. But first, I want to touch on something Amy just said. Annie Barbour is organizing programs, and those programs will try, and I expect will succeed, at linking you up with people in LA who have lost their homes and have the same insurer you do, so that you can compare notes as to what that insurer is telling you and telling other people. Also, we will try to link you up with people who have the same insurer you do and have recently gone through this journey negotiating with that insurer, so that you will have those efficiencies as well. Annie, do I have it right that that's part of what you're going to be doing?
That is basically the format of our Survivor to Survivor.
Okay.
We have previous catastrophic survivors who are obviously still on because they're still in the journey, who are paving the way and guiding our new set of survivors. So as we do check-ins, how's everybody feeling tonight? How's your progress coming? All of those people can commiserate with you, and they
Yeah.
understand exactly what you're going through because they've gone through or are going through the exact same thing themselves. We encourage you to always put your name and your fire, your disaster, and your email in the chat. And when you find someone who is going through, when you say, "Well, I'm struggling with getting State Farm to pay my contents," somebody else who's had that struggle will say, "Hey, I have some words of wisdom," and we'll put them in a breakout room so that they can survivor to survivor. They can help guide them through the process, what worked for them, and we build a family of a type, and it's a fire family, quite frankly, and so we encourage everybody to sign up for Survivor to Survivor.
Yeah. And I will tell you that now, 21 years later, my wife still one Thursday every month has what she lovingly refers to as Drunko Bunko, which are all the women on my street who got to know each other as they were rebuilding their homes. The One of the questions we have gotten a lot of is, how long will this take? Um, what I will tell you is, an average time has been in other fires probably around 2 to 3 years, some quicker, some slower. Our challenge is that I don't know that we have a good template for this fire, of this many high value homes simultaneously being destroyed. And so we really don't know how that will translate in this fire. Another question we're getting is, will I have enough insurance? That happens to be my actual area of expertise. It's what I do a great deal of work on. The reality is that it's a little too soon to know, but there will be some of you, maybe a disturbingly high percentage of you, who just on the amount of insurance coverage you have that is dedicated to rebuilding your dwelling, it will not be enough. And so, Annie, if you wouldn't mind just very briefly talking about the kinds of strategies people can bring forward to address that problem.
Yeah, so that problem can be it can be something that completely changes the way you're going to recover. It may mean that you're going to look into possibly taking your money and buying someplace else. It may be that as a group, your neighborhood's going to go together and find a production builder or a number of production builders. In my neighborhood in Coffee Park, we probably had 8 production builders, 1,440 homes just in our subdivision. We had custom homes that were built also. And, just to give you a little idea, custom homes are a one-off. So if I had rebuilt the exact same house that I had, that would have been considered a custom home. And with that would have been the extra expenses of a custom home. So just to give you a little parameters, I know that there will be builders. Everybody's wondering where they're going to find builders, what the price per square footage is going to be. We've already been hit up by builders asking, what does this look like? What should be offered? Because they come into all these arenas. And you may find a builder who is willing to do some customization for a neighborhood, and that will have economy. Um, that will be economically to your advantage.
Economies of scale.
Thank you.
Savings.
That was that fire brain fart.
Right.
And then you'll have production builders who, it's like going into a subdivision and they'll say, we have these 10 floor plans, we have these elevations. So elevations might be, a ranch style home, a craftsman style, a stucco for many of you that have lost stucco homes. And you're going to go through and pick out the builder you like and the floor plan you like. Those tend to take less time to build. And then there's going to be those who are going to have a custom build, and that's going to be a longer process, but it's really early on. Don't panic that you're not going to get a builder. We all did that in my fire, and there was plenty of builders. What we don't want you to do is to jump the gun and make a mistake. So
Yeah.
slow it down a little bit. Make sure you vet properly. We have all this advice on our website, but do not sign a contract with anybody without having a contract attorney look at it. Please make sure that you are represented in that. But again, it's too early to make that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
If I
go
can
ahead.
pick up on the
Yeah.
piece a little bit. So, long before we met Ken and he started doing his nationally very important research on underinsurance, the phenomenon, why are so many people coming up short and what can we do to prevent that from happening? United Policyholders has been working on strategies for people. Well, what do you do, if you've come up short on your insurance, which we know from over 3 decades and doing surveys, it affects about 2/3 of people who lose their homes in wildfires find that they're underinsured. So it's such a common problem. We've taken a lot of different approaches to trying to solve it. At the end of the day, if you're here now and there's nothing you can do to change what you have, there's a couple things to think about. One is, how did your limits get set? What did they get? Did you have any say? Did you have any involvement, or was it your agent and the software that they used, or was it your insurance company who did that math? That's something to think about. And then for those of you who were impacted by the Eaton Canyon fire, there's a lot of predicting and talk that it looks likely from the footage, and I've looked at some of it, that SoCal Edison equipment sparked the blaze. And in that case, that's one of the reasons why there's so many law firms running around signing people up, because suing an at-fault party, a utility that has the insurance and their own financial resources, is one strategy that underinsured people have been using to fill their insurance gaps. And early in the program, we talked about, um, FEMA, and how if you apply and they know you have insurance, they're going to automatically deny. But then if you work with them and you establish that you have losses that are not going to be covered by your insurance, that can work out. But you do have to keep an eye on double dipping. You don't want to be in a situation, and this is a little warning that we've been giving to people who are doing GoFundMe pages, is, if you're going to do a GoFundMe page, or if you're making a GoFundMe page for somebody lost a home, um, don't put wording on the GoFundMe appeal that says we need money for our rent and our like specific. Don't be specific. Just say we lost everything, and we don't have enough resources to to put back what we lost. That's going to be a lot safer than being specific, because yeah, you do need to, if you join a lawsuit, against a utility, um, you're not going to be able to double claim anything that your insurance company compensated you for. But of course, there are a lot of things that insurance doesn't pay for anyway. There's your emotional distress from the trauma. There's always going to be aspects of your loss that insurance isn't going to cover. And that will be, if you do hire a lawyer, that's going to be their job to figure that out. And we do have a publication on our website about hiring an attorney to sue a utility after a wildfire. And the reason that we did it is that after many of the wildfires, including the one that took Annie's home, including the one that took the home of two of our other staff people that lost homes in Colorado in a wildfire, utility equipment was found to be a cause. And so there was this many law firms coming around to convince people that they're the best choice for the job. And so we put a publication together to help people benefit from that competition, to pay to the most reasonable fee, agree to the most reasonable fee, and because they do compete on fees. And we want you to, if you go that route, we want to make sure that you choose wisely, that you choose a law firm that's ethical and diligent, and isn't going to just try to hoover up every single person they can find, and get overloaded and not be able to give your case the attention that it deserves. So that's just a comment there. And then finally, on underinsurance, we'll be offering a curriculum unit through our Roadmap to Recovery program on remedying it, and how do you figure out if you have the basis to sue your insurance company for selling you less than they knew it would have realistically that you should have had, given the style, features, size, value of your home, and the construction prices where you live. Now, um, I try to kind of, for when I hear people throwing out guesses of how much it's going to cost per square foot for people to rebuild their homes in the Palisades and Altadena and Eden Canyon, I'm kind of like, yeah, you know what? It's way too early to predict that. People throw around those numbers and scare you, and you think, oh my God, 600 a square foot, I'm grossly underinsured. But then it turns out, for lots of reasons, that maybe it's more like 400. But I can't sugarcoat this, because it is a big problem. But it's not a problem without some potential solutions. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And that gets us to the last question I wanted to run by you guys before we clear whatever's been posted. And that is, money's money. Once you have cash, you can spend it however you want. Now, the money, if you have a mortgage, the money you get to rebuild your home, you can't spend however you want, because the bank's going to take control of it to make sure you rebuild the house. But all the other stuff, right? If you get money towards your inventory, for example, you could decide that rather than use it to buy fancy towels for your new powder room, you want to use it to build a new powder room, right? And so, with that in mind, Amy, I know you made reference in passing earlier to there is certain checks that people are entitled to right now, and uh, and Annie and I encountered in the disaster relief centers that a lot of adjusters are getting this wrong.
Yeah.
And so, could you just tell people what they're entitled to right now?
Yes. Um, two advances, two cash advances, two buckets of money. Okay. You don't even have to ask for them. Technically, the insurer is obligated just to pay you those two advances. But again, a lot of adjusters don't know, so it may be up to you to school them on how things go here in California. 4 months of your temporary rent coverage. Insurers use different labels for this bucket. Some of them call it temporary living expense. Some of them call it additional living expense, which we often refer to as ALE. Some of them call it loss of use. Fair Plan calls it fair rental value. No matter what label they put on it, it covers your expenses that you're incurring because you've lost the use of your, because you've lost the use of your home. And the first bucket of advance is 4 months of whatever the amount of that coverage that you have in your policy. Okay, that's 4 months of ALE. Number two is 30% of your dwelling coverage up to $250,000. But that advance is not for replacing your dwelling, and it doesn't reduce your dwelling coverage. It's for your contents coverage. So it's a little confusing because that's how it came out of the sausage factory that is the legislature. It's 30% of your dwelling max. So if your dwelling max is $1 million, it's going to be 30% of that up to 250,000, and that money is available to you to replace your clothing, cooking equipment, necessities of life, the things that you would otherwise put on your contents inventory. And the thing to understand about that is it's an advance. So let's say 30% of your dwelling coverage is more than 250,000, but you get the 250. If you want to get the rest of your contents coverage up to the max that you have, you're gonna have to do that itemized inventory from $1. Um, Generally, again, we don't tell people never do this, always do that. We say you do what works for you, you do you, right? So for some people, 250,000 may be all they want for their contents. They don't want to fight, they don't want to do the itemization. I'm not here to say you're a fool to leave that any money on the table. I'm here to say you make the decision that's going to help you progress on the road to recovery. Now, this may not be the time to make that decision, and you don't have to. There should not be strings attached to those advances. Those are two no strings attached. So if you decide down the road, I feel a little bit better. I think I can handle this inventorying thing. Um, then that's fine. But if you decide I can't, down the road, you're like, I think 250, I can kind of, fine. I'm not, nobody on our team is going to say you made a mistake. We just want you to get what you're entitled to because you paid for it.
And I'm sorry, my friend Aaron, I keep putting you off and running the queue, but Annie did say she had one other piece.
Well, first I'm going to piggyback on Amy's. Some of you have been coming into the Disaster Resource Center and saying that your insurance did offer you this bucket of money and you were afraid to take it. You do not need to be afraid to take it. You don't need to tell them that you don't need it now. Put it in an interest-bearing account and move to the next step until you get something that says final check, which I personally never got. You're good to go. I would like to cover for those of you who have a mortgage, and if you have a good interest rate or you're retired and you can afford your mortgage right now, but you may not qualify again, please call your mortgage company and ask them if they will tell me you had a total loss. Ask them if they will either open a interest-bearing account or an escrow account of equal value to what you owe. And keep your mortgage open so you don't lose that interest rate. I've heard of people that have a 2.3. You're not going to duplicate that again. That can be a hard stop when you are figuring out whether you can afford to rebuild. They will keep that money as you do the rebuild process. We have to recognize that your home was your collateral. And so if you don't have a home, they have no collateral on that loan. If a dwell check comes to them, which would be a 2-signature check, you'll sign it and then you'll send it to your mortgage company. Before you send that, you have to have that conversation. Once they close that mortgage up, they can't reopen it. So we just like to make sure that we keep as many options open for you as we learn more and more about the processes.
Okay. And now, what do we have in the queue, Erin?
So actually, as we've been receiving questions, Annie has been answering them almost immediately. So I don't want to reread questions that may be available to the bigger group. I'm not totally certain what function we have in terms of whether all of these are visible to everyone. So I'll start with one that has not been answered yet. And then maybe we'll figure out whether everyone can already see Annie's answers to the other ones. The one that hasn't been answered yet is, can you please share any tips on handling claims with fair plan policies? How does that claim process differ from those with private insurance?
And I don't know the answer to that. I assume Amy does, but I will tell you something we have been encountering in the disaster relief centers that pertains to this, which is, as Amy alluded, State Farm doesn't have a bunch of large claim adjusters on staff in California. And so when an event like this happens, they bring in adjusters from all over the country. Well, the FAIR plan doesn't have adjusters outside of the footprint of California in the way that a private insurer does. And so we have been encountering people who are insured by the FAIR plan who are just getting radio silence. They haven't met with an adjuster. They don't even have a name of an adjuster or an email that they'll ever have an adjuster. I spoke to the Department of Insurance desk and asked them how they wanted us to respond to that concern we were hearing and they were hearing. And they said under California regulations, you needed to, an insurance company had 15 days from claim to assign an adjuster. If you hadn't heard from the insurer, in this case the FAIR plan, within 15 days, immediately go to the DOI website and file a complaint. The complaint will not get resolved on a timeline of use to you, but the filing of the complaint will be communicated to the insurer, and they are hopeful that that will be the nudge that is needed to get them working with you. And they were particularly concerned that that will be a recurring pattern with the FAIR plan. Amy, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, word.
Yeah.
Look, the FAIR plan, they were not built for this, and they have been staffing up over the last few years. They have disappointed some people, but they have risen to the occasion for other people. So just today, I was trying to help somebody who has radio silence from her fair plan adjuster, but her friend that she is living with right now, well, they both lost their home, has a really good adjuster. So she's working on seeing, if she can get reassigned. You can definitely ask for a new adjuster if your adjuster is not responsive. I can't really sugarcoat the situation with the FAIR plan. I can say that they are obligated to follow the laws just like any other insurance company. They're obligated to pay those advances. They're obligated, to adhere to the law. The coverage is not as good. And for a lot of people, there are some funky things, in the policy. But generally, um, you stand your ground with them, you stand up for yourself. The thing about hiring help to deal with the FAIR plan is that if you're already underinsured and you pay somebody a cut of your insurance to be your advocate, yeah, you're going to have less coverage available. That advocate better be damn good. That advocate better be tenacious. And that means that you check references like a hawk. You do not, please don't hire somebody just because they're a really good salesperson, okay? You've got to check references, especially with the FAIR plan, because look, it's better than having, being uninsured, of course, and you paid good money for the coverage. There are lawyers in the United Policyholders Network that have been in litigation against the FAIR plan, and I'm here to tell you that look, you stay the course generally, and you have a good advocate, you're going to come out the other side okay. I cannot sugarcoat it, but I will say that the FAIR plan is, again, it's obligated to follow the same rules as any other insurance company, and they can be held accountable in a court of law if need be. But like Ken said, you file complaints with the Department of Insurance and stay on it, so that they really feel that pressure. And I'm sure they're going to feel the pressure. I know there's quite a few celebrities that ended up with FAIR Plan, and they have committed to tweeting every day how the FAIR Plan is handling their claims. And that's the beauty of the internet now, is that insurance companies, they cannot hide from their customers that are not happy. It's out there.
Yeah. And Aaron, before you jump to the next question, I just want to let everyone know, especially those who are only seeing this on recording at some point in the future, that I have confirmed with the tech team running this show that when the link of the recording is posted, also a transcript of the questions that have been answered and the answers to those questions will get posted. So that will be visible to you, even if you're not following it in real time right now. Aaron, back to you.
So basically, you actually just said the one thing I wanted to be certain I intervened to say, which is this is recorded. So if any of you are watching for yourselves but have friends or loved ones who will benefit from this, it will be posted on our website, and that info will be sent out to anyone participating here. I've actually sort of come to the conclusion that questions are coming at such a regular pace that I am an unnecessary translator. So if anyone, I welcome now, Q&A is officially open. If people want to put their questions, not in the regular Zoom chat, but in the Q&A box, which is right to the right of the share box. I believe our panelists can all see it. And any questions that have been answered directly to the questioner are now publicly available for everyone to see.
Okay, um, so one of the only thing I see that's visible that is open is simply someone thanking
Compliment.
us. Yeah, so I'll accept that. All compliments are accepted, criticisms are considered. The while we're waiting to see if any other questions pop up, I want to tell all of you my what I consider my closing piece of soft advice. Um, so this was my home the day after the fire. This picture was taken from my front driveway, and the blue fence you can vaguely see in the background is the back fence. In other words, you're looking straight through the house. I'm sure for many of you, that's a very familiar image. You do get from there to here. This is us breaking ground on our new house. And eventually, you get to here. This is what is called sticks in the air. It is your home framed out, meaning There's the wood beams that will one day be covered on the inside by drywall and on the outside by brick or wood or stucco. But for a moment in time, your beams are exposed. And I would recommend to you at that moment to do something that my wife insisted on, which is go to the store and buy a bunch of markers and invite over everyone you know in your life and have them write blessings on your house. You will not ever see them again. They'll be covered up, but you'll know they're there. And you'll know that when you go to sleep at night, they're there. And that is what takes a building and makes it into a home. The fire can take all the physical things you own, but it cannot take your memories and it cannot take your sense of place. And so I would recommend that to you highly. Let's see if we have. I am not seeing anything else. So, um, Annie, those were my closing words. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah. Connect with your neighbors. Make sure you have a good support system. I have heard over and over again from so many people that these communities were very tight. Find a way to get together, whether it's coffee, Zoom, share your resources, support each other, give yourself some grace, and keep following United Policyholders. There's a wealth of information here that you really can't get anyplace else. And I think that we've had enough survivors go through a lot of different challenges in the rebuilding recovery phase that it can only be an asset to you to check in periodically as you get to different stages. Thank you.
Amy.
I think all I would like to add is just be kind to yourself. You're gonna make mistakes. That's part of life, you know, and just know that um, you know, you don't have to you're not going this alone and you've got time. And when people say, well, how do I get through this? Well, the answer is one step at a time, one day at a time. And just kind of remember that every day, you
Yeah.
know. Don't feel like you have to make these decisions today, tomorrow. There's a lot of unknowns,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of how when you'll even be able, you know, to get back. So just try to really let it all sink in, take it in, and be kind to yourself.
And I guess I will add one other thing, which is, I know LA somewhat. I'm in Southern California and, you can't live in San Diego without knowing and feeling LA. And my kid lives in LA. Um, and I always thought of LA as a city of strangers, that was its weakness, that it was a city of strangers. I've met so many people from Altadena and from Palisades in the last couple of weeks. And those communities are not strangers. You all knew each other. You knew each other's names and jobs before this ever started. I fully expect that you will have, when this is all done, the experience that my neighborhood had, and I believe Annie's had as well, which is however we went into this experience, we came out of it better. We came out of it closer. We came out of it stronger. We came out of it better. It's not an opportunity we ever wanted. It's not an opportunity we have ever opted for, but we came out of it better, and you will too. So thank you, everyone, for your time, for
Look
your
for
attention.
the silver linings because
Yeah.
they're there.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Amy. You're amazing. And with that, I wish you all blessings in your lives.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks, Annie.